Hi everybody. So I am going to share with you just a short video on how to set up Dreamweaver at home. I know that many of you have probably already attempted this, some of you have probably been successful, but I thought that we should go over how you might be doing that at home, especially since we also need to set up a new website folder in Dreamweaver where you will be able to practice your tutorials going forward. So what we're going to be creating is kind of like just a very general folder that is not really tied to anything that is going to be an actual website, but a folder where you will hold your tutorial files and practice those. So we're going to use this as an opportunity to set up that new folder, open up into Dreamweaver, set the interface in Dreamweaver so it mimics what we were doing in the classroom, and also so that it looks a little bit more like what my screen will look like going forward. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do right now is we are going to start off by finding a location on your local computer at home where you can store all of your web design class material. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a folder right now in my documents folder. And I'm just going to come over into my documents. This might be on my computer at your own home, or it might be on an external hard drive. Wherever it is, just make sure that it's a place that you're going to remember that you put your content there. So in the documents, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder for myself. And this folder is going to be for me something called Web 85-SP20 for web is our class, 85 is the number, and it's spring of 2020. Now inside of that, I'm going to go ahead and create another new folder. And this new folder is going to be for my tutorial and testing. So I'm going to call this tutorial testing as a way to, and I'm going to go ahead and just make that a lowercase t. Doesn't totally matter, but just as a way to practice our naming conventions where things start off lowercase. So now I have what is going to be a tutorial testing folder. And inside of this folder is where I'm going to start and manage all of the tutorials that we will complete for the rest of the semester. Everything's going to go in here. So by the time you're done, you're going to actually have many different subfolders in here. Each one is going to be related to a new tutorial that you are completing. So for instance, when we get to the Flexbox tutorial, you would download the tutorial folder from me, and then you would put it here into this tutorial testing. That's to come. We're not doing that today. So the next thing that we want to do in here is we are going to hop into Dreamweaver. And here it is. I've got Dreamweaver set up. Now, Dreamweaver at this moment is in its sort of like default state. So this is generally what Dreamweaver would look like if you had not worked in it very much or set it up to look like what we have been doing in our classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and work a few things out in here. One is I am going to set up a new website based on the tutorial site. Now these are the exact same steps that you would do to also set up your site one, whatever it is that is the website that you are currently working on for the class assignment. So you would do the same process. So if you're brand new to using Dreamweaver at home, these are likely going to be steps that you will follow as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to tell Dreamweaver about my new testing website. So I'm going to come up to the site menu here. And I'm introducing this as a new site to Dreamweaver. So I'm going to go to Site, New Site. And in here, I'm going to give this thing a name called Tutorials and Testing. Remember that I can name this however I'd like at this time because this is not anything that goes online. Now the local site folder is going to be the tutorial testing folder that I just made. So I'm going to go ahead and browse out there to find that one. And that was in my documents. And I'm going to go find my Web 85, which is for the class, and then my tutorial testing folder. And I'm going to go ahead and hit choose on that. At this point, I can hit save. And what's going to happen over here is that I'm going to see that I now have a new website in here called Tutorials and Testing. And then I have what would be like my root folder. And of course, as I mentioned before, as we start to add tutorials for the rest of the semester, each one of those is going to show up as a separate subfolder in here, where we will be able to go into that folder, do the work on that tutorial, and then also leave that folder and access other tutorials that we will complete as we move forward. So I don't have any files currently inside of that folder. And hold on one second. So I don't have any files in that folder right now. That folder is empty. So we're not going to be able to see or work on anything or even set Dreamweaver up without having a file in here to work with. So if you need a file because you have not set up your other folders inside of Dreamweaver yet, you won't be able to do the following until you actually do have a file to work on. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into a different website that I have available so that I can open up an HTML file and then set up some of the following settings for Dreamweaver. Go ahead and just hold on to this video as a resource for yourself so that when you get a file in here, you can do some of the setup as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start off doing things right now that don't require a file so that every one of us can at least do that part, okay? So the first part is that I want to set up my panels the way that I expect them to be when we're inside of class. For starters, right here, I can see that the CSS designer is inside of my files panel. I'm going to go ahead and undock that, and this is something that you should be able to do as well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to redock it. I'm looking for the solid blue bar right here at the bottom. When I see that, I can go ahead and let go of it. Now CSS designer is in its own panel. And then Files, CC Libraries, and Insert is in its own panel. So now I can prioritize the CSS designer when I need to, or I can prioritize the Files panel if I need to, since we use those both quite a bit. Now, another thing that I want to do in here is I want to get my Properties panel. So we are used to seeing the properties down here at the bottom of our screen. By default, it does not show up. So I'm going to go to the Window menu and down to Properties. And then my Properties panel is going to start off kind of floating around, but what I want to do is dock it down at the bottom of my document window. This is the document window. We just don't have a document open yet. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do that I don't need a file open to be able to do is I'm going to come over here to my sidebar tools, and I'm going to click on the three dots at the bottom. And in here are some other tools that we can add to the sidebar. The ones I'd like to be able to add in here are going to be indent code and outdent code. And I'm going to go ahead and hit done. And now I can kind of select code and tab it over so that we can read it better as humans. I can also use this as a tool to outdent code, and I use those quite a bit, especially if I'm selecting really large blocks and I want to move them over. So I've got those in there now as well. Okay, I'm going to go back in up here to my Files panel. And at this point, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take my code and live view, which start off looking like this, and I'm going to go ahead and turn them so that they're split vertically. And then I'm going to flip-flop it so that I have my code is going to be on the left and my live view is going to be on the right. In order to do that, like I said, I need to have a file to work with. So I'm going to use my menu up here at the top of the Files panel to leave this current website and go into a website where I actually already have files to work on. If you've already set up your current website in Dreamweaver, then you can use this and use the same technique and pop right back into that other website. So when I click on this little button up here at the top, or on the menu up at the top that says Tutorials and Testing, I can see that I actually have quite a few other websites that I've started on my home computer that I can go ahead and jump right into and continue working on. So one of the ones that I have in here is called Testing Site. I'm going to go ahead and click into Testing Site. And you can see in here that I have quite a few subfolders. This is kind of what your tutorial folder is going to look like. Look, I have a tutorial on background images or a tutorial on forms. When I open that up, these are the files that are related to that specific tutorial. So again, they're not necessarily related to each other in terms of making a single website, like everything inside of this view right now. They're all just based on having a testing website opened up in Dreamweaver so I can try different things really easily. So I'm going to use this as a way to add in an image, or I'm sorry, open up an HTML file, and then I'm going to use this as a way to just kind of deal with the setting up of the interface a little bit more. Okay, so the things that I would like in here is I would like it again to be that my code is on the left and my live view is on the right. So to do that, I'm going to go to the view menu at the top, and I'm going to go down to split, and I'm going to say that I want to split vertically. Now I have split vertically, but I want to flip-flop them. So I'm going to go back up to the view menu. I'm going to go back down to split, and I'm going to say live view on left. I'm going to click on that, and it's turning that off, which means that it's going to switch it. So now I've got my code on the left-hand side, I've got my visual on the right-hand side, and I've got my properties down at the bottom. So if I were to click on something in my screen, I would be able to load up my properties. And if I want to minimize my files panel, then I can now expand out my CSS designer. Okay, so I think that that's going to help for right now. I'm going to go ahead and get back into my tutorial testing site for right now, so that the next time I get back in here, I'll be able to load in my Flexbox tutorial and then move forward from there.